Alright, so this video is going to be about about interpreting a graph. So we're going to see a line on the graph and we're going to try to come up with an equation for it, and we're going to do it multiple different ways. So we already have two equations that we know for slope. We have y equals mx plus b, and we also have point slope, which is, and I'll just write it here, y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. And as we've already proved, it's literally just the same thing as that, but just written in a different way, right? Expanded a bit. So looking at this line here, and we're just going to do y equals mx plus b form. But we have different things that we need to find in order to put it in this form, right? We need the slope, the m, and we also need the b. And the slope, we have to make sure that it has the right sign, right? Like, we know this is a positive slope, but a lot of people kind of make the mistake of, if it was going like this, they'd have the slope, but it would be, they'd still put it as a positive slope instead of a negative. Even though it might be the right number, it needs to be a negative value. Okay, so I'm just gonna say now, slope, we kind of thought of it as like steepness before, but it's also thought of as rise over run, or another way to think of it. And rise is how far it goes up, run is how far it goes side to side. So basically, this is really just saying the change in y, this triangle is called delta, it just means change, over the change in x. So, and again, this is all slope, or n. Okay. And this is important because if we want to just look at this graph and come up with the slope for it, all we need to do is find 2 points on it. So we'll just use these two. And you have to figure out how much the y changes, how much it goes up to get to this point, versus how far it goes over, right? How far it changes on the x-axis. So this goes over, it goes up 3, right? You go 1, 2, 3, and it's going over 1. So this would be change in y is 3, and then over 1, which is just 3. So now we know that m is equal to 3. That was pretty straightforward. And now all we need to do to find the b value is look at where this graph crosses the y-intercept. This crosses it at 0, negative 2, and our b value is just going to be the y value of that coordinate. So it's really just going to be y is equal to 3x, right, mx, minus 2. And that's literally it for trying to find that. And again, we always need to make sure that this is the right sign, and it is, because this is a positive graph. And now I'm just going to show how you can also come up with an equation using point slope. So point slope, again, it's basically the same as this. And we already know, actually, the slope, right? So we already know that this is going to be 3. And so now literally all we have to do is find any random point on this line and plug it in for x1 and y1, right? Because that's all it is. So like, let's say we use this point. This is 1, 1. So this would just be y minus 1, right? This one is equal to which is 3, times x minus this one. And when you solve it, it's going to get you that exact same thing. And one last way to find the slope. So we know that slope is change in y over change in x. You can also get the coordinates for these 2 points, whatever 2 points you're using. And what you're going to do is subtract kind of one of them from the other. So the formula is going to be y2 minus y1, or it could be y1 minus y2, doesn't matter. And then x2 minus x1 on the bottom. But if this was y1 minus y2, then this would have to be x1 minus x2 on the bottom. And all this means is just you're subtracting one point, this x1, y1, from another point at y2, or x2, y2. And, this point could be x1, y1, or this point could be x1, y1. It doesn't matter. But we're just subtracting the values. So right now, this is going to be equal to, we'll just say -2 minus 1, right? Those are the y values we're putting on top. We're subtracting this one from that one. And then on the bottom, we're going to do 0 minus this one. And when we solve for that, we get -3 on top over -1 on the bottom, which guess what simplifies to 3. And that is basically 3 different ways that you can, and again, if you want to try to find the y-intercept or the b value after that, just look at here, or, you know, do the point slope form. It doesn't matter. But those are some different ways that you can interpret a graph just by looking at it.